Hello and welcome back to the Ambassadors of Gaming. I am Ambassador Michael and I will be doing the Patreon exclusive for this month. Hooray! So I had a very interesting idea. In case you are unaware, I recently decided to stream and beat the Resident Evil 1 remake on PS4. And going through and really playing it in preparation of Resident Evil 2 remake, and just to get more familiar, as I've only really played Resident Evil 7 and a little bit of 5. I felt the need to go back and kind of start at the roots and understand why this series is so influential for so many people, just in the industry in general. So that leads us to this. Why Resident Evil Remake is a masterpiece of game design and why you should play it, in case you haven't for some reason. As I said, RE2 Remake is here, and we recently did the Resident Evil 4 video last month, so I thought it would be a good time to give that a shot. I had it installed already on my PS4 since the release of it on PS4, so might as well, right? Once I had gotten used to the older control scheme and the way the game generally functions, the way enemies move, the way you explore and find items, using and conserving said items, I felt enlightened. That's the only way I can describe it. My first playthrough was with Chris on easy. I can't give you the rough time frame, but I'm gonna take a guess that it was between 10 and 13 hours to beat for the first time. And I did it mostly without a guide until I got near the labs. About right before the labs is when I had to start using a guide. The reason that Resident Evil Remake, and I'm going to assume the original, is so damn impactful and so meaningful is simple. Even now, 23 years after its original release, and 17 years after this remake's release, it is so cinematic, thoughtful, and meticulously planned. Nothing happens that isn't intentional. The first Resident Evil game I ever played to completion was Resident Evil 7, and I was looking back on that experience while I played through the remake, and I couldn't help but draw a comparison. Resident Evil 7 is a love letter and as close as we'll get to another Resident Evil remake. The enemies are stopped by closed doors, while the character is in a different room. There's a large house to explore with outdoor areas, and crazy bosses to fight. Spoiler alert. If you don't want a spoiler for the end of Resident Evil 7, skip ahead 15 seconds. Even the way Resident Evil 7 ends is the same. Resident Evil does so well in almost all aspects of what it set out to be. Its pacing and timing is perfect. You can never truly prepare for what is coming next on your first playthrough of each character, of course. The mansion and the area surrounding it were so carefully mapped out and put together it creates a great flow for the game. The repetitive nature of the map and the way you navigate it is more exciting than it is annoying. You are constantly tasked with finding out what new areas you can explore, what the new item you just found belongs to, where it can be used. It is a spider web of events so masterfully put together you don't even realize it, how well it is being presented to you, and in such a thoughtful manner unless you stop and reflect because I was so engrossed and enamored with the game. To top off its masterful design, the game has an interesting story full of mystery, treachery, and in some cases pure evil. The things you discover while exploring the mansion and its surroundings are truly horrifying. The once living beings you encounter and their grotesque changes can be just as sad as it is scary. One of the bosses in particular has an incredibly sad storyline. Throughout the game you read about plenty of characters who met their fate, what they were thinking, feeling, the emotions they had, and what they had hoped and dreamed of, and for most of them the realization that they had created something heinous. Resident Evil nails all of this, and with the added bonus of creating a replayability factor with multiple difficulties that change the way the game works. Enemies spawn differently, items are spawned in different areas, and on harder difficulties, even less frequently, items are spawned. The tape system functions in a way that makes you feel guilty for saving too much, playing it too safe. On top of the fact that there is a limited number of times you can save, and you have to go out of your way to nab items just to save, makes for a much more intriguing, though frustrating experience. The numbers on the tape climbing are there to remind you that realistically, you can get through this entire game without even using the system, as difficult as it would be. All in all, these factors are the reason why Resident Evil is truly a cult masterpiece, and deserves to be praised as such.